Hello and welcome to the returning of the building of the Svensson Jungmeister. Having successfully maidened the Fulton at the weekend, that's cleared a bit of space on the building board, and I was ready to jump in straight away to a new project, and then remembered that I had this to complete. So I did a little review of what needed to be done and actually discovered that there's far less than I thought. I had thought that I had to put this identification marking on the lower wing, but when I've looked at photographs of the prototype, they appear on some photographs and not on others. So I'm taking the not option because it's an easy get out. I have actually started a little bit of work, and that is I've actually added the windshield. Now that was a little bit more difficult than I thought it would be, mainly because it's very difficult to stick acetate to any sort of surface. I have used canopy glue in the past and I'm not very impressed with it, to be quite honest with you. But I'll show you what I did. The first stage was to cut out a template for the acetate windshield, and that was a case of trial and error, cutting it to shape and kept on serving it up to the surface until I felt that it was a good fit. I then tried to glue it with a canopy glue that I use for model railwaying purposes, for doing glazing windows and so on, and it just didn't have the strength. So what I had to do, I made the actual framework first, at least the bottom part of the framework, and I glued that onto the fuselage. Once that was on and in place, I added some tape along the edge on the inside and the outside of the shielding to simulate the right-angled metal that would have held the glazing in place. I was then able to glue that using super glue up to the plastic card bottom base, and then I ran a fillet of epoxy all the way around the outside. I may add some riveting at a later stage. I think I might just finish it off, and that is absolutely solid. That's not getting knocked off, which has happened to me in the past. So one job done. What to do next? Well, the to do next bit revolves around this area. Let's just set the tripod up. There are bracing wires to go from here to here, and from the underside underneath near the tail of the fuselage. I have actually got locating blocks in here before it was covered in anticipation of that, and I've been thinking long and hard, probably overthinking it, on how I'm going to do that. And I've looked at photographs of the prototype and I've discovered that, see if we can get this, the brackets are actually very small. They're not huge things. So I've made one to try it out to see if it'll work. You can see I've put the angle on to allow for the wiring. It's made out of just shims of brass, which I've filed to shape and drilled out. And then the idea is that they'll be located, little slight focusing issue, in place with these rivets, which will be epoxied in place, drilled into the wooden blocks, and then through this lower hoop I'm going to feed a loop of this steel fishing cable. I've got different weights of cable to see which is appropriate. That'll be looped through, and then the loop's going to feed through a piece of tubing, aluminium tubing, which will be crushed to clamp it in place. And then I think finally I might actually put a sleeve of heat shrink over the top, which will sort of tidy it all up. But that's the sort of scale we're working at, get it in focus. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them in a base to make. So I'll pause here, crack on and make them, show you them when they're done, spray them, and then we'll actually put them on and you'll see them added on and the effect that we get. The little brackets have now been made and sprayed up in a dark primer. I may actually colour them orange and this lighter grey, I don't know yet. So they're made. All I have to do now is to mix up some epoxy, which I'm going to do, and then we'll set them in, and when they're set, we'll actually start putting the wire trace in place, the bracing wires. So a little bit of epoxy mixed up. It's a fast setting 5-minute epoxy. They're not going to be functioning bracing wires, these. That's plenty strong enough, the structure itself. But I think it'll look nice, and it finishes the model itself off. So I'm going to mix it with this stick, then I'll change it for a new cocktail stick so I don't get stuff all over the place. So epoxy's mixed up. Let's look where I'm going to go. There you go. Take some of this epoxy. Put it in the hole. If you're anything like me, you always mix up far more than you need, but it's not expensive stuff. In the scheme of things anyway. I'll apply a little bit to the rivet, and then let's put this in. The first bracket. It may be not prototypical to leave them that colour, but I think it looks rather nice actually. We'll see. A little bit to this one here. That's in place. So simply need to let them dry off, and then we'll put the bracing wire in. Okay, the glue holding these brackets in place is now set. So I'm ready to do the next part of the process. And for that I'm going to be using this nylon covered wire from a fishing tackle shop. And the first thing to do, I'm not going to cut it to length yet, is to actually feed through the wire. Actually, I've missed a point. The first thing I'm going to do is slide on one of these locking collets, which will be crimped in a moment. So feed it through. Leave plenty on it because it can always be trimmed. And then you slide this tubing up and feed it through here. Not that easy to do actually. Feed it through, feed it through. Yeah, I'm happy that's gone through. Take it up as tight as I can go. There you go. And I'm going to crimp this now. And to crimp it, I think what I'm going to use are these. I'm thinking about putting heat shrink over the top. Has that gone through? Yeah. Right, that's crimped, that's going nowhere. So that's the first stage, and then some heat shrink will be applied over the top of this just to neaten it, tidy it all up. Yeah, I'm going to cut off the excess here, or to leave some excess on. And feed that through. No, I need to put on the other tube. And before I do that, I need to actually apply the heat shrink. So let's see what we've got in terms of heat shrink. See what this is like for size. Oh, it'll be too long, the piece. But will it go over is the question. Yeah, it'll fit over. So once that's applied and the heat shrink is activated, so to speak, and shrunk down tight on there, I think that'll make a nice neat finish. So I'll just pause it there while I get the gun to do that. Is it going a good way? Will I affect that? We'll see. We'll see. Just pause it for a second. Well, I thought twice about using a heat gun to shrink this. I was concerned that I would be applying heat onto the fabric covering that I don't want, and that would have spelled disaster. So I'm going to do it with the iron. Just run it along. Try not to burn my fingers. And if I say so myself, I think that gives a rather neat finish to that bracing wire. So I'll feed that through there. Having put I have to think ahead a little bit here. I need to cut another piece of heat shrink to go on there. Because I won't be able to get it on once I've completed the loop. So let's cut this. So that needs to be threaded on now. Just keep it out of the way for the moment. I'll just push it up there. I need to put a sleeve on, a crushable sleeve on. Just open it up so you can see what I'm doing. And then I need to feed this through here and back on itself. I don't want to pull the wing out, but by the same token I don't want it hanging slack, which would sort of defeat the purpose. That's it. Now I've got to feed this right the way through. That's looking good. Just difficult holding this. I'll grip it with a pair of small pliers. That's great. And I get it a little bit closer. That's it, that's as close as it's going to go. Crimp it flat. That's now sealed on. I can cut this short. Then slide down the covering. Apply some heat. Try not to hit the actual braiding because it's covered in plastic and I don't want to melt that, it'll look awful. And there we have it. I hope you'll agree that's a neat set of bracing wires done on this side I just need to repeat. Oh, that's good. Never, that glue's not taken. I think I might have to resort to super glue. Yeah, I think I will. There we go. Let's correct that error and we'll get it sorted. There you go. In conclusion, that's take 2. I've realised what happened now. When I applied the heat with the soldering iron, it softened the epoxy and it just came loose and all the tension went. So I've seared these in now and you can see, I think it looks rather neat. Zoom in a little bit closer. That looks to me like a fair representation of the turnbuckles that you would have. I just need to repeat it 3 more times on the other side and underneath, and then that's another task ticked off on the building of the Jungmeister. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the process. Take care now. Postscript, here we go. That's the upper bracing wires in place. I think they look really quite effective. It's what I'm looking for. I didn't think the epoxy would actually soften up with the heat, but it clearly did. The CA's held those brackets in place and they're going nowhere. So thanks for watching. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and that'll keep you up to date with my modelling adventures. And give me a thumbs up if you don't mind. It helps spread the word to other YouTube viewers. Bye for now.